Every major African country has electricity in the city, but then the rural areas are completely dark. So we had to find a solution.
Akon is a name that we haven't heard in hip-hop for some time. You might remember Akon for getting an Olympic gold medal in the human long throw category, or you might remember him from his hit single Locked Up, which was inspired by his time in jail, despite reports that he may have embellished the length of his sentence. Or you might remember him for writing the smash hit Lonely, despite having multiple wives. You might also remember that Akon's music career cooled off considerably in 2010, around the time that he released his collaboration with world-renowned DJ impersonator David Guetta, allegedly. Yes, despite occasionally dropping a feature or the odd low-charting single, seems to be safe to say that for the last decade, ain't nobody really checking for Akon. So what did Akon do with himself after fame? Did he take his millions and go out gracefully with an opioid and fast food addiction like so many of the greats from the noughties? Well, no, he actually decided after conquering the worlds of music and business to have a little crack at being Jesus and try and bring electricity to millions of Africans. Now, I've always kind of known that Akon was doing something good in Africa, but I didn't really know the details. Like, if you'd have asked me what he was up to, I probably would have said he was running a charity or like donating phone chargers to some kids. No, no, no. Turns out Akon is an actual saint, and that same man that wanted to smack that ass all over the floor is now providing that electricity for 80 million Africans. I really mean it when I say that I didn't appreciate the scale of this project at all. In fact, the first video I found when I started researching this was on fellow hip-hop commentator and my own personal mentor in being a high-level culture vulture, DJ Vlad's YouTube channel. It was titled How Akon Got $1 Billion Chinese Credit Line to Provide Electricity to 80 Million Africans, and it's well worth a watch. Now, when I saw that title, I was almost certain that I was about to get some classic DJ Vlad clickbait. But it turns out Akon is legit. Now, if I've learned anything from watching hundreds of hours of rappers' interviews, it's that these guys are all full of hot air and straight capping. So I decided to do a little bit more digging, and I actually found this amazing video that's actually produced by Akon's organization that basically gives you an overview of the work that they're actually doing in Africa. And I'm not gonna lie, this thing completely blew me away. I mean, I was nearly in tears looking at some of what they were doing in Africa.
Remote places like villages and islands can now enjoy social activities at night. People can now wander around safely.
I would recommend that after you finish this, definitely go and have a look at that video in its entirety because it's super inspirational. But let me give you a few of the highlights. You get to see Akon actually in Africa with the people that he's helping. They show you some of the many countries that this system was operating in way back when it started in 2015. There's moving testimonials from women in these villages who now have light and can feel safe selling their goods at night. As well as videos of children who are now able to study in the evenings because of the light that Akon's providing. Beyond that, it seems like loads of different businesses and enterprises in Africa have been allowed to flourish because of the additional light that this organization is being able to provide.
De 6 heures du matin jusqu'à 0 heure. Avec la lampe, on peut faire ça, c'est le mieux.
And there's even an interview with a doctor who explains the improvements in his ability to provide care because of the new light. But here's the real kicker. It's all renewable solar energy.
Our solution? Equip millions of households in Africa with tailored solar energy systems through public-private partnerships.
That's right, he's using solar mini-grids to provide electricity to 80 million Africans who didn't have it before, with a long-term goal to provide electricity to 600 million people that didn't have it before. Amazing. The sheer scale of this project is just as impressive as Akon's ability to get this whole thing off the ground from scratch. He made a major finesse by securing $1 billion in funding to get this thing off the ground from China, or as Donald Trump would say, China. Let me tell you, China doesn't just hand out billion-dollar checks to any slick-talking rapper that wants the money. If that was true, you know Soulja Boy would be the richest rapper in America. But what you might not know is that for many years, solar technology was booming and a lot of investment and government subsidies were being put down to support the development of these technologies. But after a little while, the government started pulling their funding for these projects and subsidies. As a result, Chinese companies that had invested in this technology were left with a stockpile of gear that they basically couldn't use in the American or European markets.
When Bush was in power, Bush created a 200% tax on all solar-related and renewable energy coming into America.
So what do you do when you have a giant surplus of solar energy technology and no communities to deploy it in? Well, of course, you wait for R&B sensation Akon to come and knock it. Essentially, a network of Chinese government-supported organizations and banks cut that check to make this happen with Akon. But as it turns out, $1 billion ain't
At first, I was like, $1 billion? Oh, that's, I'm rich. Then I realized $1 billion ain't
something that often gets overlooked is the business model and how the economics of this project actually work. So there are three types of solutions that Akon's organization, Akon Lighting Africa, offered when they started in 2015. Firstly, household solar electric systems, which they had gotten into 200,000 homes. Secondly, solar street lamps, and they started with 100,000 of those. And finally, solar micro generators that replace old fossil fuel burning systems and provide energy hubs for local communities. And they put down 1,000 of those. But what's in it for Akon? Well, Akon famously said that he doesn't believe charity works, and I personally think that it was really smart of him to set this whole thing up as a for-profit social enterprise. Charities run on donations, and they can often end up being incredibly inefficient about how they allocate the money and resources that they give away. A business, on the other hand, sets its goal to make as much money as it possibly can for its own purposes. This kind of unadulterated, raw, money-grabbing capitalism can often lead to disasters, such as what we saw in Bhopal, the BP Deepwater oil spill, or of course the Soldier game. But the goal of a social enterprise is essentially to make money by tying the profit that they make to a social good. So making money by making things better for other people. This is a really smart approach because it essentially ties impact to profit, and it incentivizes everybody that's involved with the project to do things that are good and will make them money. It's a win-win for everyone. Akon Lighting Africa makes money through long-term repayment plans with local governments. So the organization gets their solar equipment cheap from China. They work in partnerships with companies like the French Sunna Design in order to design and create solar mini-grids that can power an entire village.
12 families now have lighting in their homes thanks to this solar street lamp that provides electricity to nearby houses, a system also known as a nanogrid.
But the real genius in this is by hiring thousands of local workers to actually build and install these solar systems. So this not only provides electricity but also employment to a new area and massively empowers the community in an economic sense.
In December 2015, the trio launched a solar academy specifically to train Africans.
The main way to keep it lasting is to make sure that the people are the ones that build it. Because if they build it, they're not going to let it fall down.
It's like that old saying, give a man a fishing rod and he'll eat for a day, but teach a man to fish and he will eat forever. And I know that's true because years ago, somebody gave me a fishing rod and I still haven't finished eating it. So it all sounds great. Millions of struggling people have been helped, thousands of jobs have been created, immeasurable amounts of money and economic stimulation have taken place. At this point, Akon's just making all of us look bad. I mean, really, what impact have I made just sitting here in my bedroom, wearing a t-shirt with my face on it, making jokes about rappers that are far more successful than me? I mean, I've probably wasted enough electricity to power an entire village just looking for Akon memes to put in this video. I mean, sure, these are hilarious and it was probably worthwhile. I mean, just take a look at this one. Hilarious. It might have even been worth it, but still. The whole thing raises as many questions as it does answers. Hard questions like, will I ever make an impact like this? Why am I such a loser? How did he come up with such a great idea when I haven't even been able to find a good acorn pun to put into this video? Well, we're in luck because like any desperate startup founder, chugging that last little drop of free beer from a Google campus networking session, Akon has of course got a classic founder struggle story about how he came up with the idea. Now, not a lot of people will know this, but Akon is actually Senegalese. His family spent a lot of time in America, which is where he was born, but he lived in Senegal until he was age 7 before moving to New Jersey. So Akon grew up as a child without electricity, and he remembers feeling a culture shock when he used to go back and visit his grandmother in Senegal after he was successful, but she still didn't have electricity.
Every time I want to come and try to upgrade her, but she would never take it. She would never allow me to do anything. She want everything the way it is because this is what she used to. And one day I said, Mom, I'm not coming to visit you no more. You gotta at least let me put some electricity in this house.
So at that point, he had the bright spark, why not bring electricity to her rather than taking her to electricity? Essentially, he remembered being a child in this village with no electricity, went to America, made himself wildly successful, became a multi-millionaire, went back to Senegal, and realized that nothing had really changed. So that was his real motivation for making this thing happen.
Every major African country has electricity in the city, but then the rural areas are completely dark. And that's where the population really resides.
But let's not get it twisted. Akon is a smart guy with his money, and he's made it no secret that this is a for-profit business. And around the time that his career was cooling off, he was looking for other ways to expand his business portfolio. And Akon is particularly bullish when it comes to doing business in Africa. In fact, he's famously suggested on numerous occasions that Africa is the only place that you can go right now and build a Fortune 500 company and become a billionaire in 5 years flat.
Africa is the only place in the world where black people can go and build Fortune 500 companies from scratch within 5 years.
And I totally get it. If you're going to become a huge rapper, an amazing entrepreneur, and make a whole ton of money, why not doing it helping and empowering other people that are in a difficult situation? I'll be honest, this is a refreshing change for a lot of the rappers these days. People like 50 Cent and P. Diddy constantly trying to flog you products that aren't really going to help you. More vodka for you to drink yourself to death on, more clothes that are going to end up in a landfill, and more sugary water for you to get diabetes from.
So I wake up this morning, and what do you know? Trap whore Ross, your boy, is at it again. This time, he's talking about Akon providing light for 80 million Africans. Keep us out your mouth. On the other hand, it's quite a positive video, highlighting something positive, someone doing something positive in our community. So yeah, I want to say thank you, but guess what? You're still a bitch.
It's actually just kind of disappointing how little media attention this has gotten.
Nah, but it's actually good because it's allowing me to put in all the work I need to put in. And then, because believe it or not, had I got all the media attention before I got up and running, yeah, I probably wouldn't have been up and running.
The tragic death of Nipsey Hussle was a huge shock to the hip-hop community. But it did take his untimely death for people to really realize the amazing work that he was doing to help his community and empower the people in the area that he grew up. And we saw after his death, all of the initiatives that he was working on were getting so much attention, people even started trying to jump onto the bandwagon. I would probably say that Atlanta rapper Future was the worst offender with this. I'm not sure about you, but I personally feel that telling people to drink lean and cheat on their girlfriends with bottle girls doesn't quite qualify as social enterprise. But much in the same way that Nipsey's amazing work that he was doing in the community didn't really get the shine it deserved whilst he was alive, I don't feel like Akon's contributions really get the shine that they deserve. This project ticks all of the boxes. I mean, he's providing help to countries that are impoverished, that aren't getting the help that they need. He's also providing tons of jobs and economic stimulation in places that also aren't really getting it. And on top of all of that, he's doing it in a sustainable way that's green and clean energy. So seriously, why is he not getting the credit he deserves? The first reason is pretty simple. This is all going on in Africa, and it might be the case that people just aren't interested in African issues. Or because they've never been there, they can't appreciate the difference that Akon is making. This is something that came up in depth in the amazing, if slightly grating interview with Noriega on the podcast Drink Champs. In this interview, Noriega admitted to Akon that he'd never been to Africa because he was kind of scared of it being dangerous and also of getting the injections that he needed.
I was scared. This is back in the day.
That's why I said you gotta release the fear.
Gotta release the fear.
It seems like Akon kind of agreed with this, and he suggested that a lot of people are overlooking the amazing possibilities in Africa because they're either miseducated on what it's actually like out there. Akon has suggested that this is a common issue, and in general, there's just a lack of interest in Africa, and he thinks that people should get out there and actually see the opportunities for themselves. The second reason people might not be reporting on this is some of the questionable aspects of Akon's personal life. Let's be real, it seems like nowadays, every celebrity you go to, under the controversy section of their Wikipedia, there's always something about an underage girl. Akon is of course no exception, but with a little digging, it does seem like what went down was a little more innocent than Wikipedia or some of the articles out there will have you believe. In 2007, Akon got in trouble for supposedly simulating a sex act with an underage girl at a nightclub in Trinidad. So it turns out he was actually hired to host an event where a dirty whining contest was going on that night. If you don't know, dirty whining is a type of dance that originated in Jamaica and tends to be a little bit sexually charged. You might be able to guess that dirty whining isn't quite my area of expertise, and I'll be honest with you, my only experience with a dirty wine was accidentally drinking a corked bottle of Pinot Noir. But anyway, this dance contest was being held in a nightclub that was supposed to be for people aged 21 and over, so it turns out that this underage girl got in the club, got in the contest, got to grinding like the Clips, and ended up winning the whole thing. According to Akon, the moment was actually filmed, and a few weeks went by without incident, but it was only when the story actually hit the papers and the girl's father, who was a well-known pastor in the area, kicked up a fuss. At the time, Akon lost a few endorsements, but the label didn't drop him, and he was basically allowed to continue with his career. By no means would I call this a Me Too moment, but it does provide a little bit of ammunition to anybody that basically wants to discredit anything that comes out of Akon's mouth before he's even said it. So that could be a reason why the media isn't too eager to talk about Akon with this questionable past going on. In addition to this, there's the little known fact that Akon is actually a polygamist. Yes, he has multiple wives, something that he seems to be open about but doesn't necessarily enjoy talking about.
Yeah, I got more than one. I can go that far. But I can't go deep into it just yet.
Okay.
Now again, if this is his preference and an arrangement that seems to work for him and his wives, then fine, God bless them, it's 2019, why should I cast judgment on how someone else wants to live their life? But once again, it's another piece of ammunition for people to drop Akon out of the conversation by default and not give him credit for the things that he's doing. Or the third reason that simply Akon is just not popping. I mean, he's had a bunch of #1 singles throughout his career, he's worked with the biggest names in the game, but it's been pretty much over a decade since he's actually dropped a significant album. So essentially, maybe Akon just isn't popping enough to care about. I mean, maybe if Drake was providing electricity to 80 million Africans, we'd actually talk about it. But it's Akon, so who cares? And this one really bothers me. You know, it took Nipsey Hussle getting killed in the street for people actually to sit down and take a look at the amazing work that he was doing in his community. Meanwhile, right now, we literally have Akon providing electricity, empowerment, and economic growth to millions of people in Africa. He's just not getting the credit he deserves, and he's still alive. I think the man deserves a Nobel Peace Prize, but ultimately no one cares. No, you'd rather hear about Drake's new project. Let me get on my Soulja Boy for a minute, okay? Drake! God's plan? You want to talk about God's plan? Oh, the guy's going to give away $1 million in his music video just so that he can chase clout and build up his own image. Meanwhile, Akon is silently providing electricity for 80 million Africans. You got Drake and you got Akon. I honestly think that it's a travesty that Akon's not getting the love he deserves. So in this video only, I don't normally do stuff like this, but this week I want to do something a little bit different, okay? So forget the Ice Bucket Challenge, forget the Cinnamon Challenge, forget the Bow Wow Challenge. This week, we're going to do the Akon Challenge. Next time you're listening to a little bit of mumble rap on YouTube, just spare a little thought for Akon, scroll down to those comments, and just leave a comment. Just say, it ain't Akon, though. You're listening to a little bit of Blueface, you know, Bust Down Thotiana, but it ain't Akon, though. Yeah, next time you're in the club, you're having a good time, getting a little bit of God's plan, you know, yeah, my bed or my mama. It ain't Akon, though. Okay, where's the electricity? Maybe you're listening to a bit of the baby, you know, you're getting some of your Suge on, you're getting your Suge Knight on. Yeah. It ain't Akon, though. Ain't no electricity being provided by the baby. Ain't no electricity being provided by Birdman. It ain't Akon, though. Do the Akon Challenge. Make sure that you show Akon some love, because this guy is doing a lot of work and you lot aren't supporting it. Your favorite rapper is in the club, hanging out with thoughts, drinking lean, and popping Percocets. Meanwhile, Akon has silently become the Elon Musk of hip hop. So show some love and make sure that you comment, it ain't Akon, though. You really better put some respect on Akon's name, because you never know, he might just become the next president of the United States. And if you're wondering, oh, well, you know, these videos were a while ago, what's Akon up to today? Oh, you know, only launching a new initiative, Akon Lights America. He's gonna provide solar energy at low cost to low-income households in America. This guy's gonna change the world, okay? And you lot sleeping, you lot slipping, you lot probably don't give a shit. So, no sketch at the end of this video, nothing like that. Just go and show some love to Akon, because you know what? Akon needs you, because you already know I wanna like you. If you like that video, don't go down and like and subscribe. Just show some love to Akon. Leave a comment saying how great Akon is. Leave a link to your favorite Akon song. Don't buy a t-shirt. Go to Akon's website and buy a t-shirt from Akon's Akon Light America store. Do that. Forget me. Don't subscribe to me. Subscribe to Akon. So until next time, peace out. To Akon.